You are listening to the IoT For All Media Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the IoT For All Podcast, the number one publication and resource for the Internet of Things. I'm your host, Ryan Chacon, and if you are watching this on YouTube, truly appreciate it if you give this video a like, so that thumbs up button, and hit subscribe if you haven't already done so. If you're listening to this on a podcast directory somewhere else, please subscribe if you haven't already done so as well, so you get the latest episodes as soon as they are out. All right, on today's episode, we have Julian Studer, the CEO and founder of LORIOT. They are a global IoT company. They were founded in Switzerland in 2015 with a mission to enable long-range IoT solution deployments in every corner of the globe, even space, which is pretty cool. So fun conversation that we had today. We talk a lot about we start off by talking about the founding story of the company, which is always exciting. We talk about the general situation in the IoT industry, as well as the LPWAN space, the main verticals that long-range IoT is kind of built for, success stories that they've seen and the industry has seen in the LoRaWAN space, and then why the company has chosen this hybrid approach that we dive into a bit, and kind of big challenges they see in the market. So very valuable, good conversation. I think you'll all be pretty excited that you spent the time to listen to, because I really enjoyed this conversation and thought it was a really good one. So I hope you enjoy this. But before we get into it, any of you out there are looking to enter the fast-growing and profitable IoT market, but don't know where to start? Check out our sponsor, Leverage. Leverage's IoT solutions development platform provides everything you need to create turnkey IoT products that you can white label and resell under your own brand. To learn more, go to iotchangeseverything.com. That's iotchangeseverything.com. And without further ado, please enjoy this episode of the IoT For All podcast. Welcome, Julian, to the IoT For All podcast. Thanks for being here this week.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity having this virtual interview with you.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Let's kick this off by having you give a quick introduction about yourself. Any background experience that will be relevant for our audience would be helpful.
Yeah, so my name is Julian Studer. I'm the founder of the company LORIOT. So we are in the IT business. We are a purely software company. And before starting with the company in 2015, so we are 7 years old by now, I worked 10 years in the banking financial industry in Switzerland. I worked for one of the biggest banks for 10 years in Geneva and in Zurich. And 2015, I had somehow an inner voice or something telling me that I wanted or needed to change the sector, as the financial industry became a bit much too compliance legal oriented. And it was a good opportunity to start in the IoT sector. And already by then, 2015, it looked very promising to start a company in the IoT field.
Fantastic. And I want to get into that founding story here in a second, but tell us a little bit about what your company does, kind of the overall focus and role you play in IoT.
Yeah, we are set fully software-based, so we don't produce any kind of sensors or gateways. So normally when you speak to people and you start telling them about IoT, about connecting stuff with the internet, the first thought is always, okay, there must be some kind of sensor and gateway, which is true. Right. But normally people always think about something they can hold in their hands. And as we produce only software, it's not something you can really touch. It's digital, it's virtual. And that's then a bit more complex to explain. But in easy words, what we do or what we have is a management tool in where our customers and partners can build IoT networks. We are like the brain, the management tool of connecting all the sensors and connecting all the gateways and create a harmony to build this IoT network. So first is the management tool. Then we have the encryption, the transport of all the data that arrives at the server. And from the server side, the third point is we have APIs to push the data to whatever kind of IoT platform. It can be in Microsoft, it can be in Azure, it can be in IBM, or it can be something self-created by the end customer.
Gotcha. Fantastic. So I wanted to ask you if you could take us a little bit through kind of the opportunity you saw back when you started the company, and just kind of the overall opportunity in the market. What caused, the shift from, you said, the banking industry into the technology and then the IoT space? Kind of what was that journey like?
Yeah, so I needed a switch. And in the banking financial industry, I still think today it's one of the most interesting sectors out there. So I'm still fascinated about the stocks, about investments. If you work at a bank with investments, you are absolutely up to date what's economically doing worldwide, what politically is happening. So you're always really up to date worldwide what is happening. I miss this a little bit from that perspective, but the other perspective that in 2015 and before changed a lot was really that this financial industry was heading very strong towards the sector. There was more like compliance legal. In the end, I felt more like a lawyer doing due diligences, KYC of the customers, than doing the proper investments. And that's something I never liked that much, the whole administrative stuff, the legal compliance stuff. And in the same time, I started to hear more and more about IoT, about software, very promising. And I always had a big motivation to build something by myself. And so those were a bit the key drivers to change completely the sector.
Fantastic. So let me break here for a second, and I wanted to kind of shift to talking about the industry as a whole now. Um, from where you all sit, the way you kind of look at the market, what is the general situation in IoT today from your perspective?
Maybe let's jump back to 2015 when I met my
Sure.
first reading about market research. I mean, the predictions of the coming years up to 2025 or even longer were extremely bullish. I mean, everywhere an exponential growth was predicted. And up to today, I can confirm that the sector is healthy. It's one of the most booming sectors, and especially now with the war in the Ukraine or after the COVID scenario, we see that more and more applications are coming with use cases specifically for that. But in general, IoT is booming. What I can say today is it's growing, it's stable, it's a good market to do business. You need to do it properly because you see like startups growing up like grass in the field. So many new startups are coming. One thing I still don't see is this hockey stick, this exponential growth of IoT sensors connected. Because 4 or 5 years ago, professionals were predicting that we would face a strong exponential growth. We see it that it's a bit faster than in the previous years. As I said, it's pretty linear growing in the last 2 years, and this market is expecting around the 22% of growth in the IoT market, which is quite significant compared to other markets. But this really big bullish explosion of exponential growth and hockey stick, we haven't seen it yet, but
Right.
it looks like because big use cases, especially in the metering segment, are starting right now, and there it's all about the quantity of sensors. So we really hope that in the next, let's say, 2-3 years, we see an exponential growth in this sector.
And just as a whole for the industry, what do you think is contributing the most to the growth and also the projected growth? What's changed as of recently? What are the big kind of trends that you're seeing that are giving kind of that optimistic outlook?
Yeah, trends. I would say IoT in general, the world industry 4.0 is already a trend. And the funny thing is sometimes we get approached by companies. In most of the cases, those are governmental institutions, and they tell us like, yeah, Julian, we need to do something in industry 4.0. We need to be modern. We need to show to our people that we are modern, we are doing something. What is industry 4.0? What can we do? So this question pops up quite a lot, and then we explain them what IoT is, what they can do, etc. But I think the motivation for IoT, I would say it's always like 3 motivators that governmental institutions or companies motivate to implement IoT. And I would say one thing is if you can improve security. I mean, today, as I said, it's very legal compliance driven, the markets. If you can improve somewhere in a company or in a state, pure security, just imagine smoke sensors, detection of water leaks, etc. This is one motivation. The second motivation is if you can save money, because investing in technologies, investing in something for the end user partner, it's always a question is, how do I save money or how do I produce money? And produce money is the third. So we have customers that build the networks to resell the connectivity. That's the way they do their business, and they earn money with their own margins. On the other side, we have companies that have implemented IoT to reduce their own costs. It can be leakage. I mean, just think about insurances that place sensors in New York under the rooftops to determine if there is a humidity because if the
Right.
humidity grows under the rooftop, they have time to prepare the roof before the big catastrophe starts. Because if it's too late, then the whole roof is done, humidity is in, you have fungus, etc. And insurances are investing a lot of money in cases like that where they can predict catastrophes and act before the catastrophe happens. And this is a way of saving money.
Absolutely. I think the saving money and potentially creating other revenue streams because of the sophistication of the technology and the more general, just well understood know how of how to build these solutions at scale, how to do this well. We've had a number of years now where we got through kind of that very early adopter phase. We have a lot of people who have been able to roll out solutions, watch and see that these solutions can be successful in not only reducing costs and making companies more efficient, but at the same time can actually open up new revenue streams for businesses,
Mhm.
depending on how it's structured, obviously. And I think one of the things that helped IoT during COVID was the fact that it's a technology and an offering that enables an organization to save money, especially in a time of so much uncertainty. This is something that the investment is well worth it, as opposed to something that's more risky to potentially make revenue, but then it doesn't actually kind of turn out that way given certain market conditions. So I think because of that inherent like money or revenue, or I guess cost saving, efficiency kind of improvements, IoT has been able to really succeed when other markets may not have been as successful.
Absolutely. Today, to the 3 points I mentioned, I might add a fourth point, which has
Sure.
become also like some kind of fashion. And the keyword here is sustainability. Because
Sure. Yeah.
all the large companies, they want to be present in the market with a good picture. And sustainability is one of the big themes here. So we
Yep.
have larger food companies, we have companies that are in the agriculture field, etc. And sustainability is a big theme. I said here, if they can improve security, like the
Right.
people have better conditions, or just imagine a simple use case in the agriculture where
Right.
they can control much better the water consumption, where water
Right.
is only used when it's really needed, or they
Yep.
can reduce water leakages, etc. This is all connected to sustainability, and it's not only about security, not only about saving money, but it's also good for their reputation, for their picture outside towards the world.
Totally agree. And one of the things that I mentioned a second ago, which I wanted to ask you about, is the general improvement in the technology and the options that are out there to make use cases um, more, I guess, plausible to be built and deployed. And the big area I think of that outside of the hardware side is the connectivity side. So there's lots of different connectivity technologies that have been released that are growing and are improving and are bringing, and the cost is coming down on those in order to provide better coverage, better options to mesh with or match with the use case and what it actually requires. So there's really no overkill. It's not like you're using 5G, for instance, for every potential use case. You don't need that. You have other types of connectivity out there available to you. And one that I think's really played a big role is kind of the low power wide area network side of things, the LPWAN. And I wanted to ask you, from your guys' side of things, how has that really driven adoption, and kind of how do you kind of see that fitting into the market and its role as it kind of currently states now?
That's, by the way, a very good and smart question, because people might ask, okay, why are there so many communication layers?
Right.
And I had like 3 or 4 weeks ago, I had another one interview, and I was also asked what's the best IoT technology. And here I always like to bring the comparison with, let's say, Ryan, if I'm asking you, what's the best car for you? And then
Right.
you will think, you will probably ask me, what am I going to use the car for?
Sure.
Am I going to the racetrack? Am I going to off-road, or am I
Right.
going for holidays with my
Right.
family? And it's pretty the same with the communication layers. And what I also learned with the communication layers is you cannot improve something and think that all the rest will stay the same. It's a bit similar than with economics. Either you decide for inflation or you fight against the unemployment, but you can hardly work on both sides, improve both. And that's why, let's say, we have many technologies in the field. And the low power wide area networks, I was saying before that the average growth in the last year, this year, and probably the next year is between 20-25%. but the growth on the low power wide area communication layers like LoRaWAN or IoT, they are growing a bit more than 50%. So you see the trend in IoT is growing, but these layers of low power wide area networks are growing on the double side of the average of IoT.
Right.
So we still see LoRaWAN and IoT one of the most bullish technologies because they cover a lot of fields. Normally, IoT is information, and in most of the cases, I would say in more than 90% of the cases, the information is so small that you can use LoRaWAN and IoT. It's like a temperature, it's like a leak sensor that yes says or no, a parking sensor, garbage sensor showing you the percentages of the how full it is, or GPS tracking. This is all very short binary systems where you can transport easily with LoRaWAN or IoT.
Right.
And those are the biggest use cases out there as well. The other advantage brings is if the packages are so small with those technologies, the power that is used in a sensor is very minor. So we have sensors in this low power wide area where the sensors survive up to 10 years. So if you
Right.
go back 10 years where these technologies didn't exist, they had to, let's say, let's take the example of a parking sensor. You had to open the ground, you have to put wires, electricity wires, because you were either using Wi-Fi or a SIM card in the sensor, and that was very energy consuming. So the installation itself was super expensive, sometimes 20 times more expensive than the sensor itself. Today, a parking sensor costs around 90 euros. They just glue it on the ground and it's done. So this opens a lot of new doors.
Gotcha.
And the use case we see in these areas is agriculture. So imagine somewhere in Malaysia or somewhere in Latin America where you have hundreds of hectares of land with plantations, and with some single gateways, you can cover an area of 30 kilometers. This is not possible with other technologies like SIM, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or whatever is there out in the market. But also the other technologies, they have their advantages. I mean, how many messages do you want to send per minute, per second, per day, per month? How big is the load? So that's the main reason why you have different technologies. But if I would bet on a horse, then I would really bet on the low power wide area protocols. And that's where we have 100% focus as LORIOT.
Fantastic. And we've talked here about these different technologies on the connectivity side. We talked about the market in general. One thing I wanted to ask you is, with the way you view the market and kind of interact with customers, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've come across or that you see as an organization that the industry is either facing currently or really needs to be thinking about going forward?
One of the biggest challenges is for sure the complexity it still has today, because the vertical solution is quite long, from the sensor to the gateway to the communication to the encryption to the data storage to the IoT applications, etc. And I'm always explaining to people that IoT is like a big picture with 50 puzzle pieces. So you need to stick them together. We as
Right.
LORIOT, we might offer 5 to 10 of these puzzle pieces, but you still need to go for the other puzzle pieces to find a harmony between everything. Of course, we have partners to offer the gateways, the sensors. We have many partners also on the IT platform. So we can nearly offer the complete vertical chain, but this has to come through partners, and this has to be a good matching. The gateways need to be integrated. The sensors have to be certified. The IoT application, they need to have the right APIs connected with our system. And this requires a lot of collaboration with external companies to be able in the end to bring to the end customers the complete vertical chain. And there are also many customers that are a bit lost in space. As I said before, they come and they say, look, we need to do something industry 4.0. And from our side, it's a lot of hand holding. The industry is quite new, and there are not many professionals, experts in the market that understand the full chain. So it's a lot of extra work from our side as an added value to our partners and customers to
Right.
help them and explain them what they exactly need.
Absolutely. Well, I did mean to ask this earlier, but you kind of mentioned something in your answer there that prompted this in my head. How have you all approached the market just in general as you're focused on more of these long range solutions? Obviously, you said you focus a lot on the software side of things. What is it about what you do that's kind of unique in the approach that you take to the market, and how have you been able to kind of sustain that in the kind of current climate now?
Well, it connects a little bit with your question before, where I said that it's still complex, and it's maybe trivial to hear that one of our strengths is simplicity, because as the market is already quite complex, we have built a system that is very smartly and logically built to make it easier for our end customers. It's on the technical side, I would say we have one of the leading systems worldwide, but also on the business side, we are known or tend to be very flexible in creating tailor-made models. And I mostly prefer to offer, let's say, an all-in fee where the customers just buy a package and everything is included, like support is included, license included, package of sensors, package of gateways, like really the full basket. That's something that is seen good in the market when we participate on some RFQs. The customers like this fact of simplicity. We are also very transparent, and it took us, let's say, time to get known in the market, because I think, as you know, we are a Swiss company, and I think we behave also very typically Swiss. We are very much in the background. We are not as noisy as some other competitors in the market. We do our work pretty well, and I think in the last months we have seen the payback that we have built up a track record. The larger companies, they speak to each other, and they know that if they collaborate with us, they get delivered the right quality.
And for our audience out there who may want to learn more or kind of follow up on this conversation, discover a little bit more about the company's doing, what's the best way that they can do that?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, if for our audience out there who wants to learn more about the company, more about what you all have going on, follow up on this discussion, that kind of thing, what's the best way that they can do that?
Okay. It's pretty simple. So we have started 1 year ago to present more use cases on our homepage. The easiest way would be to get to our homepage, click on the part where you can read the use cases, and we present many use cases all around the world with our partners, from agriculture to smart city to construction sites to metering. There, people can read a little bit more about IoT. What are the real use cases? Where is money invested? Where are the networks growing? And they can, of course, subscribe also on our newsletter. And we are quite active on LinkedIn presenting what we do to show, because that's also one of the questions of the customers. Okay, what can we do with IoT? We have customers and most of them struggle to grow. So it's also our duty to help them, to show them, look, this is available. Buy the sensors, connect them, grow your network. Indirectly, it's also an advantage for us, because if they grow the network, we also do more business and we increase our revenues.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm excited to have our audience listen to this episode. And, anytime we talk about LPWAN, we talk about the current state of the market. We're talking about these different use cases that are really being more enabled now than ever. I think it's very valuable information, and I'm excited to kind of have our audience hear from your all's perspective, not just what you have going on at the company, but at the same time, just generally how you kind of view the market, which is great. So I truly appreciate your time, and I really thank you for taking some time today to chat with me. And I think our audience is going to get a lot of value out of this episode.
Yeah, more than welcome.
All right, everyone. Thanks again for watching that episode of the IoT For All podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please click the thumbs up button, subscribe to our channel, and be sure to hit the bell notification so you get the latest episodes as soon as they become available. Other than that, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.